we've certainly seen a bigger push. We hear about the gig economy. It's been huge, and let's call it IT, right? Lots of projects, lots of contractors, probably more contractors than perm staff. So there's lots of IT staffing. I grew up doing some of that, and now we're seeing the burnout in supply chain. People are like, I can't keep up with this. My health is deteriorating, and mental, physical, and so we're seeing people, get sick of it, and they're taking breaks and sabbaticals and kind of re-entering the workforce as a contractor. Chris, you're an example of that. So what have you seen, just from your what you call fractional consulting? I know you've got several folks that you used to work with that are working on projects right now and kind of that, food, beverage, CPG domain. Do you think that's going to be a bigger thing? More gig workers entering into supply chain to work on project basis so they can maintain a better work-life balance?
So I think it connects back to the talent strategy. I think for the companies that are being thoughtful about this, they're going to be more intentional around saying, what do we want to staff for with our employees? Where do we want to use partnerships to access some capabilities? And where do we want to use contract kind of resources to flex that? I don't think a lot of people are being very intentional about it, but I think that's something they should. My observation in terms of the people I work with is over the last 10 or 15 years, I think the general trend outside of tech, so let's just say CPG, industrial, that type of thing, is to get your resource level to the level of resources needed to run your business. But that means you don't have enough resources to change your business. And the fact is, because consumers are changing and how you compete is changing so fast, that's the gap. And I think that's where you're seeing the people who are gig-based or gig-interested, particularly, beyond the midpoint of their career, having a big opportunity to come in and help those businesses with that space. They have domain knowledge. They still want to play. And I think a lot of the people I see who have been taking a break, that's where they're coming back in. And done well, it's a great outcome for the client and the people involved.
Well, you got the other aspect in that, recruiting in supply chain for over 2 decades, people get to that retirement age, and I honestly don't know many people that have retired into the sunset. I'm going to play golf every day. They do the honey to-dos, they take the trips, and then they have operations in their DNA and their blood, and they've got to be doing something. And so I'd say the majority of people are coming back in and at least working part-time and working on projects, typically engaging through their networks, and making very good money doing so. And then they can control, well, I'm going to work on this project for 6 months. I may work a few days a week. They're dictating, what they want to do. And then they'll take a break, go do a trip, come back, making some excess money to have a better retirement. I think it's a real opportunity for folks that are kind of burned out on the 50, 60-hour weeks, week in, week out. I think it's going to be a bigger thing in the future, because there's not going to be a way to solve this mass exodus other than to, like you said, Mike, borrow from other functions, transferable skills that you can tap into, and then just tapping into that older workforce that has sort of either retired or semi-retired.
Another interesting dynamic with all this, when you talk about the job changes. And I wonder how long it really takes somebody when they end up moving from one spot to another to really have an impact on the next supply chain that they get into. So if it has some vast differences to it, or even some small differences, maybe in food and bev or something like that, when somebody goes from one company to another, how long does it truly take to be able to get up to speed where you can make a difference?
Yeah, I think both of those points connect. I have a client I'm working with who is intentionally not bringing on a lot of full-time people because they need to move fast. And so they're being really intentional about picking partners who they think can come right in, and they are betting that the set of partners will get them momentum, and then they can actually bring full-time people in. because you're right. The reality is, for somebody to be effective today, we used to say 90 days, but in some cases, if it's a unique culture and or a unique ecosystem where the networks matter internally, it can be a year. So I think all those things factor in. I think the other thing that I would say to you, Rodney, is I have no disagreement, because I'm in that peer group of those folks who are interested in working in the gig side. And I think a lot more people are thoughtful about adult learning and the need to be active and the need to have a tangible purpose, and you can anchor to something that you've been good at. A lot of the people that I work with beyond an economic motive are very focused on giving back and making a difference in a business, in a supply chain. So that's important to them. But I'm still seeing younger people who are very curious about this, who say, maybe I don't want a traditional, big corporate, kind of supply chain career. And in all honesty, if they look at a traditional consulting kind of role, it all of a sudden feels the same, big company. And they're trying to say, can I be entrepreneurial and gig and play in the supply chain world? So I think there's a lot more interest in that. Whether that plays out over time, we'll see.